During this Virtual McArt lesson, we are going to be creating this super cute little fella who is floating through space, totally lost. Now, for this little masterpiece, we are going to need a sheet of mixed media paper. You can also use cardstock or watercolor paper. I have a sketching pencil. I have a few color marker pens that I have selected. You can use the same or different colors, it's up to you. I have a small round-headed paintbrush for bringing my markers to life, pot of water, paper towel. Now for adding my stars, I have a paint palette with a little bit of white acrylic paint. I've already added water to this, just a little bit of white acrylic paint. And I have a couple of paint brushes, old paint brushes that I'm going to be using to create those splatters a little bit later on, and also a sketching pencil. Now I've already prepared on my page a slightly smaller frame to work within. This is quite a challenging technique using the markers, so I recommend drawing a little bit of a frame on your paper so you're not working to the whole scale. Now, to capture this little guy hurtling through space, the first thing we need to do is get the basic shape of our spaceship in there, which is going to be a circle. Now, before we do anything, you can see I have drawn a smaller frame on my page. So my drawing's not going to go right out to the sides. You can do whatever size you want, but I do recommend making your paper just a tad smaller. It makes using these markers much easier. So let's make a start by getting that first circle shape in there. Now what I'm going to do is a little visual marker at the top here over on the right hand side. That's going to be the top of my circle. And then the bottom. It's not very big. I don't want my spaceship to take up a huge amount of space because I want most of my work to be this glorious background that's going to be fabulous. So these little markers here are my spaceship circle. So I'm going to lean back, take a look at that. Yep, I'm happy with that size. So now I'm very lightly going to turn those visual markers into a light circle shape, tickling the paper as I go around. There we are, there's my circle. Now I'm going to rotate a little bit onto its side, and I'm going to do like a donut shape that goes around the side. Before I do that though, to make it a little bit easier, we're going to cut off a little arch here going down. That's going to be part of our donut shape. You're not going to see this bottom section here. So let's use our eraser to take that away. So I have a flying half circle going through the sky there. Now I'm going to slide down the circle, start a little bit behind, and then whip in front with that little donut shape there. Are you starting to see a flying saucer now? Yep, there he is. I'm going to turn back on his side again. Make sure my dome is nice and rounded. And then when my flying saucer finally finds somewhere to land, remember he's lost in space, if he lands, he's going to just roll because he's a circle. So we need a bit of a flat bottom here. A little bit of a platform. So when this little guy finds where he's going, he can actually land his spaceship. There we go. Now I'm going to do some little fun, like headlights, I guess, around my donut section here. So I'm just doing some little circle shapes. You can jazz your spaceship right up. Do whatever you want for yours. You could do a rocket or something totally different. I'm doing a very basic flying saucer for mine. Use your imagination. Now, there's nobody flying my saucer, so I need to have a little guy in here who's lost. So my little alien here is going to have 3 eyes. So inside the bubble here that he's looking out of, I'm going to do one little circle and another one on one side and another one on the other. How cute! And then I'm going to bring down the sides like that. And I'm going to have them joined up by like little legs there. He looks super cute. And I'm going to do a little frown here because he's lost after all. Where am I going? There we are. That is my sketch done. Take your time, have a play around with your alien in your spaceship, jazz them up however you like. Now I am ready to get some color on here. If you are not, pause if you need to. Now I'm going to start with my purple marker pen here, my purple pink shade. Now, very important, lid on the back so we do not lose them. They roll everywhere. If it's on the back, you always know where it is. Now, I'm going to start by having a purple glow in the background of my galaxy here. Now, for this, I'm going to use the flat of the marker pen, this lengthy bit here. Not the sharp pointy bit, the flat. And I'm going to rapidly just start laying down some fun purple on its side. Like that. I'm going to take it up close to my spaceship. There we are. Pretty far out to the sides. And that's it. That's all I need. There are some white gaps. It's certainly not filled in perfectly, but that's absolutely fine for now. And then I'm going to switch to my black. So this is the quick section. Adding the water and waiting for it to dry takes a little bit longer. Lid on the back again. Now this time I'm running my marker, again still using the flat. I want to go right up to my border and right up to my spaceship. Creep over the purple just a little bit so the two kind of blend together. But I'm going to leave all of this purple by itself. So here we go. So running along the edge there. Take your time with yours. Gently coming down into that purple a little bit. You don't have to be super neat with this because we are going to be turning it into paint. So you're not going to see all of those scratchy lines. But you do need to be very careful not to go on your spaceship or outside of the border. There we go. I'm rotating my work to make a slightly easier angle to work from. Rather than having to twist my arm into awkward positions, I just rotate my work to make it easier for me. There we go. All the way down. Gently over the purple just a little bit. Looking good. Oops. And then this last little section over here. So again, running down the side of the paper. Now I'm going up to my little spaceship and I'm going to stop because now I want to spend a second being careful, making sure I'm going right up to my spaceship without coloring the spaceship in. I just want this around the outside. So take a minute, look at the outer edge of your spaceship and make sure your marker pen is running right up to it, but not onto it. There we go. Okay, super excited. The most favorite part of any of my artworks is coming up next. Activating color with water. This is so fun. So what I'm going to do, lid back on the marker. Very important so our markers don't dry out. I have here my paper towel, my water pot, and I have like a medium round-headed paintbrush here. You can use any paintbrush really. Slightly larger bristles so you leave less brush strokes behind. Now, it does not take very much water at all. Watch this. Into the water. Gently dab on the paper towel so I'm getting the excess water off the brush. Now, I'm starting in the purple area here. Look at that. The water lifts the marker off the paper and just gets it to gently roll around. Beautiful. Oh, this is going to be fantastic. There we go. Now be careful not to move it around too much. Do one little area and move into another area. If we carry on pushing the black around, we're going to close over this bright area that we've created in the center. And we want to leave that a nice, almost translucent purple shade. So it looks like you're looking way back into a super deep galaxy. There we go. Now, if you've used a normal drawing paper or a lighter bodied paper, this might not be working as well. You need to use a heavier bodied paper for this, like a thicker mixed media. Card works just fine, just normal cardstock. You need something that can really hold the water on the surface there. Oh, this looks absolutely gorgeous. It's so quick to do. Wonderful. Turning on its side, tip of my paintbrush facing the spaceship. Now, your paint, your marker here, cannot travel any further than where you are adding the water. So really control your paintbrush. If I go all over here outside of the border, my paint will travel down that little pathway of water that I've left. So I'm being very careful. There we are. Now, if I go in with just a little bit more water in a few areas, I can actually lift a little bit of marker and create a couple of like lighter pockets. Light areas come forward a little bit and the dark areas go back. So it's a clever way of creating some depth in my sky. Just a little bit of water here and there. You can experiment with this technique forever. No two pieces you do will be the same. It is so fun. I absolutely love doing this technique. So easy as well. Beautifully attractive. There we go. You can see how shiny my surface is where it's soaking wet. Now, if I was to start coloring in my spaceship with markers next, what would happen is the marker would start to travel out into the background where it is wet. So we're going to take a little bit of time to allow our work to completely dry. You must be patient and make sure it is dry before you come back to it. You have done such amazing work. Take a well-deserved break. I will see you in 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, welcome back guys. Now I think we are ready to start splattering a galaxy on here. So what we are going to do is get rid of all the materials we don't need for a second. And we are going to prepare our workspace. We are messy. Artists are messy. So let's prepare for that. So what I am going to do is lay down some kitchen towel underneath my work. Now, you're welcome to go outside and do some splattering. You may be working on a surface that's easy to wipe down. Fabulous if you are. Perhaps you're working on a plastic tablecloth. Whatever you've got going on, make sure you are protecting the surface underneath your work because this step, I'm not kidding, it is a tad messy. Very, very fun, but messy. So what I have done is protected the table behind because paint is going to fly. What I have here is a paper plate with a small amount of white acrylic paint on it. You can use anything as a palette. You can use just a normal plate. Perhaps you have a plastic palette. I like to use paper plates because they're super easy to just throw away when you're done. Now, as for my paint brushes, I've got 2 really old tatty wooden brushes here. Now these are hog's hair bristles that have a real bounce to them. You can see how firm they are. You have to use a bristle that's going to bounce back. Look at that bounce. Paint's going to fly off of this. Now, in order to create my stars, let's just move this down a little bit so you can see. I need lots of water mixed into my paint. If my paint is too dry, it is not going to fly off my brush. So here we go. Going into my water with one of my scruffy brushes here. And I'm going to just pull a little bit of that white to one side and loosen it up a bit. Look at my brush. It's getting really clogged with paint. Don't worry about that. So same again. Really loosening it up. Now my brush is super loaded with paint. I'm going to roll it on its side, pushing it down on the paper plate, squeezing all of that paint out. So now it's pretty empty. Then I'm going to go back in and really control the amount I'm picking up. Just a little bit. I don't want to launch any massive craters at this piece of work. Look how beautiful our sky is. That is fabulous. Just take a second to admire what you've achieved. Okay, that's enough. Let's get some stars on there now. So with my loaded paintbrush with really runny paint, what I'm going to do is hold it carefully over my galaxy. I am aiming, okay? I'm aiming for my sky, not across the table. And I'm going to gently, with my other brush, tap. So here we go. There we go. I'm getting some lovely big stars on there. Fantastic. Those are the large stars that I want. Beautiful. Now I am going to do a totally different technique using the same brush. This one is a little bit mucky, I'm afraid, but totally worth it. So same again, into the water. Let's loosen up a little bit of that paint. Now this time I'm going to flick flick the bristles with my finger. So holding with my left hand. I'm right-handed, so I'm holding with my left and I'm going to flick with my right. So I'm aiming again. Now I'm going to gently flick the bristles. And you see how that gives me a beautiful, fine spray of stars. Now, let's be realistic. You can never have enough stars. So take your time and have some fun. This is so fun. Gently flicking all the way across your galaxy. Make sure you're hitting your paper and not the person that's sitting opposite you. Us artists can get a little bit carried away. There we go. Fabulous. Now, if you are trying to do this, but your paint's not going anywhere, it's stuck on the brush, that's because your paint is too dry. Get another scoop of water, add it to your paint, and then let it fly, okay? I am so happy with that. It looks beautiful. Okay, whilst that's drying, I'm going to clean off my brush. We never leave paint on our brushes because it dries and it is a real pain to get out. So we take care of our tools. Without these tools, we can't create fabulous artwork. So looking after our brushes. I'm going to lay them down on my palette and move my palette to one side. I may want to add a couple dazzling highlights on my alien later on, so I'll keep that nearby just in case. Now, I flicked some paint on my alien here, so what I'm going to do is just use my finger to gently blend that out into my alien. Now, I don't have to wait for my background to dry before I start jumping into color again. I just have to be very careful not to rest my hand on my fabulous background. So what I'm going to do is move everything out of the way here. My protective paper towels, which are very useful. And I'm going to bring back my marker pens here. We're going back to the markers. Wonderful. Now I'm going to start on my alien first using a light green. So lid on the back. And I'm going to start by adding a nice base of light green all over this little guy. He's going to look very worrisome soon because he really is lost in space. There we go. Now to bring this little guy to life, I'm going to add a bit of shadow on just one side of him. So before you add your shadow, decide where your shadow is going to be. Mine's going to be on the left-hand side, not the right, the left. So every little line on the left-hand side is going to have a dark green little edge to it. Down his little eyeball legs. Is that a thing? It is now. He has an eyeball leg. The little things that are holding his eyeballs up. There we go. There we are. Using the point to do that because that was a small amount of detail there. Doesn't he look lovely against that beautiful sky? He's really popping out. Oh, this is fun. Okay, next I'm going to use my grey here on the body of his spaceship. So lid on the back again. Now using the flat, I'm going to do just a little bit of grey. Going kind of around the center of the spaceship. There, not very much. Just like that. And a little bit on the bottom as well. We are going to add some water to that to bring it to life. So, what I'm going to do is use my paintbrush. My water is a little bit white from the paint that I was using. I'm not worried about that at all. So, into my water, I have some paper towel here, blotting the excess off. And I'm going to very gently activate my grey on my spaceship here. Remember, it's not done. When you add the water, that grey is going to carry on moving by itself. So don't worry if it's not exactly where you want it to go. It's not done. It's still going to carry on wandering across your page. Now, as for blending into your background, we let our background dry. Now, this marker pen will only go where you add the water. So as long as you're in control of where your water is going, you will not blend into your background. This is a great little exercise for controlling your medium. Beautiful! Now the last colour that I'm going to use, mine rolled away, is a little bit of blue. I'm going to do a bit of sheen on my window up here. A little bit going around just the shadowed side. Again, tiny bit of water. Gently activating that. I am so happy with how this cute little guy is turning out. Wonderful. You could have something totally different to me. I'm just showing you a very basic, loose little alien. I'm very excited to see what you guys have done. And if you want to, you can activate the green on your alien as well. Wonderful. Now, it wasn't a huge amount of work, but you've done fabulous, so take another little break and let this guy dry before we do the outside edge. Or remember, that pen is going to run and bleed, and he's going to look very, very blurry. So take another little break. See you in 5. Alright, this little guy's had some dry time and he is ready for the next step. So my little spaceship here has got these little circles, which are like little headlamps. So I'm going to add yellow on them. So putting the lid on the back. Make sure your work is dry. And I'm going to add just a little bit of yellow. No, I'm not adding water to this. You do not need to add water everywhere. This is absolutely fine. I just want a little bit of dazzling yellow to bring them to life. Awesome. And then I'm going to add just a teeny bit of red on one side, on the shadowed side again. I love my little details. There we go, just a little bit. Now this bit's going to really bring him to life. I am going to use my black again, the same black that I used to create this phenomenal background. I love it. Lid on the back. And we are going to do a nice professional finish by tracing around the outside of everything. Now I'm super excited to see my little alien, which I've decided his name. His name is Bob. I'm going to bring Bob to life first with the very point, the pointy section of my marker pen. So here we go, Bob. I'm going to rotate my work to make an easier angle. My background, my stars are still a little bit wet, so I am being so careful not to rest my hand and smudge them. Give your work some more drying time if you need to. I'm happy that I can rest on the outside and get to Bob the alien without smudging anything. So using the very point of my marker, I'm starting with Bob's eyeballs. 1, 2, here we go. 3, and I'm going to go around the whole of everything with this nice, very skinny, dark line. There we are. He's looking very cute. I just want to do a tiny little bit more green shadow coming down one side of Bob to get him to stand out more. I do like Bob. I think Bob suits him. Bob, the little lost alien. A little bit of dark green under his mouth there. And there we have our completed little lost in space alien, Bob. Bob the alien. He's so cute. Now that was a very fun, kind of unique piece of work. Did you know Crayola markers were capable of doing such fabulous techniques? If not, I recommend you have another go. How fantastically fun was that space scene? Now, I recommend you have a go at creating your very own space scene. You could have planets and asteroids and a rocket and maybe a space guy just floating through the air. You could do whatever you want. Remember to do a very light sketch first. When you have your sketch in place, pick a couple different colored markers. I used a pinky tone and a blue. You could maybe get some greens or even yellows in there. Experiment and see what you can come up with. Now, it is best to work to a slightly smaller frame. It's a little bit easier working to a smaller scale with this technique. One of the most important things when you are doing this technique, and it's a little bit annoying, be patient and allow your colors to dry before you move into the next area. If I had a wet background and I started on Bob the alien and the spaceship would just blend out into my background. It was super important to wait for my background to dry completely. Exactly the same when it comes to adding color to your main feature. Wait for it to dry, no matter what you're drawing, whether it's a planet, an asteroid, or a floating astronaut. Wait for that feature to dry before you do your fine outline to get him to pop forward. We don't want the colors to bleed. Mine have bled a little bit here, but I don't mind that. I think it looks a little bit like shadow. I'm very lucky with where my colors bled there. Whatever you choose to do, the most important thing is that you have fun with what you are doing. We are always learning. Now, I would absolutely love to see some of your galaxy creations here and what little aliens you've come up with. So please share them on Instagram and Facebook. You can add your pictures in the comments and tag us. You can even share your work in Virtual McArt's student portal. Let's see what little space scenes you've come up with.